Noah Basketball is our new presenting sponsor of our Coaching You podcast. Noah Basketball is a shot tracking and data company that has helped change how coaches and players perfect the game's most important skill, shooting. Noah is a data service provider that uses machine learning and the latest computer vision technology to provide real-time data and feedback to improve shooting accuracy and consistency for professional and amateur basketball players. Noah has now analyzed over 570 million shots from countless high school, hundreds of college teams, and 28 NBA franchises. The technology is simply amazing. Once the system has been installed, players will be able to get immediate feedback on their shooting arc, left and right positioning, depth, makes or misses, and makes the data available to players and coaches on your mobile device. For more information about how Noah can help your team, visit noahbasketball.com. Hey, welcome to another Coaching You podcast with the coach, Brendan Sir, presented by Noah Basketball. Tell you what, we wanted to get to you some really great highlights of our Southeast Super Clinic, and we wanted to get that to you so that you can really engage yourself in learning. So many great coaches, so many amazing coaching nuggets. I wanted to share today with you about a third of Kelvin Sampson, the National Coach of the Year's talk there. All I'm going to tell you, because I don't believe in spoiling things, is that he is incredible as far as the why of coaching. He is the reason that every one of us is coaching. That's all I'm going to say. And if you don't watch this and end up excited and with goosebumps on your arms, you need to retire tomorrow. Let me tell you, it is incredible. If you want to get the videos of our entire clinic, go to coachingyouplus.com. And again, if you want, coachingyoulive.com/super clinic. But again, let me tell you, this is absolutely incredible. Listen, we're going to take a week off from our podcast next week as we're traveling back from Las Vegas. We'll resume the following week for you. After a quick time out from our sponsors, we'll be back with Kelvin Sampson. We're thrilled to have our longtime partners and friends at Dr. Dish Basketball on board as sponsors of the Coaching You podcast. Dr. Dish machines are undoubtedly the most user-friendly and advanced machines in the world of basketball today. Dr. Dish has completely revolutionized and reimagined the shooting machine to provide the best solution on the market. Join top programs around the world like Duke, North Carolina, Florida, and countless others and upgrade your shooting machine to Dr. Dish. Dr. Dish machines are the best way to increase purposeful reps in your program to get players better, faster, while tracking progress along the way. Dr. Dish provides so much more than just your standard shooting machines with custom training, pro trainers, and coaches on demand, real-time and detailed analytics, and top-of-the-line drills and workouts. If you're looking to take your program to the next level, look no further than Dr. Dish for the best basketball training machine in the world. If you have an old machine that's just collecting dust in your gym, did you know that you can trade that in to Dr. Dish for up to $1,500 off and get a new dish? Make sure to give our friends at Dr. Dish a follow at Dr. Dish B-Ball on Twitter and Instagram for great daily drills, workouts, tips, and inspiration. Or contact us at drdishbasketball.com. Don't forget to mention Coaching You or our podcast for $300 off your purchase. Coaches, are you looking to take your game preparation to the next level? Then Fastmodel Sports is the perfect coaching software for you. With FastDraw, build an organized library of plays and drills and create professional playbooks to share with your players and staff. You can also download over 9,500 free plays and drills from our playbank directly to your FastDraw account. Looking for a better way to build your scouting reports and want to include video? With FastScout, build custom scouting report templates to prepare your team best for each individual opponent. Plus, did you know with the latest updates from Fastmodel Sports, you can now include video with your FastScout reports and share with your coaches and staff, all within the FastScout mobile app. The combination of FastDraw and FastScout is by far the best way for you and your coaches to create winning game strategies and effectively communicate them to your team. Over 10,000 high school and youth coaches trust Fastmodel Sports products to help their teams reach their goals. To order, go to fastmodelsports.com. Use code COACHINGU15 to get 15% off any FastDraw or FastScout products. Remember, go to fastmodelsports.com. Use code COACHINGU15 to get 15% off any FastDraw and FastScout products.
My father was a high school coach for 33 years in the state of North Carolina, and he was inducted into the North Carolina High School Coaches Hall of Fame. I think in 2001, he passed away in 2014, but he's the one that got me excited about coaching because I saw the impact he had on our community. Believe it or not, when I was a little boy growing up, we didn't have seat belts. Didn't even have, we just had, long seats. He could get 8 guys in a 4-seater to take them home every night after practice. It's kind of what coaches did back then. But I watched him do it. I saw the impact he had on those young men's lives and how they always came back around and thanked him. A couple of them named their children after him. And I said, that must be a really, really important job being a coach. And sometimes we can't lose sight of the impact we have on these young men's lives, good or bad. So for me, I start the year off every year as kind of an affirmation for myself to start over again. I think next year would be my 36 years as a head coach in college. And that sounds good, but sometimes it's more survival than anything else. But this year, I'm really excited about the coach this year, which tells me I want to keep going because I'm excited about this team. But I coach every team the same. I coach every kid on our team. I don't treat them all the same, but I hold them to the same standards. And that's why our culture has always been important to us. Everybody has different roles, but everybody's status on the team is the same. We had a walk-on this year, win a game for us, potentially win a game for us, because he was treated like the other players. Our best player probably led us in floor burns this year. Because he's treated like a walk-on. But if you're going to coach a basketball team, you can't have different levels of players. You can have a best player, you have a best rebounder. But there's 3 people on your team that can never have a bad practice. That's the head coach, the best player, and your point guard. Now, it makes it a little bit easier if your best player is the point guard. I had that situation this year at the University of Houston, where our best player was a kid by the name of Jamal Shed. He was my best player, he was my hardest worker, he was my toughest kid, and he was my best leader. He checked a lot of boxes. But we create high standards. I think a coach has to be able to set standards. And the first set standards you should set is for yourself. I've been going out, and I don't know if it's just a coach in me or what, but I evaluate coaches. The first thing I notice about a coach is if he's lazy or not. It's amazing how many coaches coach sitting down in practice. It's amazing how many coaches don't make their teams touch the lines in line drills. They don't hold them accountable. So how can you possibly have standards? What are your standards? How long did it take you when you got your job to stay taking your job for granted? Think how excited you were to get your job. Then how long after you had your job did you take it for granted? Think about that. 36 years, and I still coach every year like I'm going to get fired if I don't work hard enough. I was a head coach when I was 31 years old in the Pac-10, and I never thought I was quite good enough. I just thought I was in the right place at the right time. And both of them were probably somewhat true. My first contract at Washington State was a 2-year contract for $82,000. That's right, $41,000 a year, because they hired me to get to the next guy. But that creates a chip on your shoulder. And no matter how long you coach, I think you never lose your chip. You know, I talked to Chris Beard about this. I saw where he's talking tonight. I've known Chris Beard for almost 30 years. And I told him that story almost 30 years ago, and he texts me about every week. He says, Coach, never lose your chip. That's important. Don't ever lose your chip. Don't ever think you're more important than your players. Don't ever think you're more important than your job. Don't think you're more important than your school. Be appreciative of the opportunity to do what we do. And then maybe, just maybe, you'll get to do it a long time. Because being humble is amazingly, amazingly important. When you start thinking you're a little more important than you actually are, that's when these jobs become really hard. Because I do believe in karma. You know, we tell our kids we get out of something what we put into it. How much are you putting into it? Are you just going year to year? You come to a clinic now and then, you know, write some shit down and think that's going to help you get better? Or do you go back every day? You know, you don't have a video staff, so you are the video staff, right? Been there. Tape some games. Tape NBA games. Look at the start of the first quarter, end of the first, start of the second, end of the second. Start of the third, end of the third, and really focus on the last 2 minutes. And look at all of their set plays out of timeouts. Look at their set plays on the baseline for 2s and 3s. Look at what they do at the end of games. What are you doing at the end of games? What is your flow offense into, how do you set up your zone offense? Do you run the same thing against 2-3, you run against 3-2, and all of a sudden you called something versus a 2-3 and the coach comes out in a 1-3-1. Are you always prepared for that? That, to me, is what the off season's for. You don't teach rebounding on Tuesday and Friday nights. It's amazing how many guys start teaching deep rebounding. We got to block out. Oh, really? It's great advice, Coach. What time is it? 7:30, and that's the first time I've heard rebounding out of your mouth since September. Whatever it is you want to be good at, you got to work at. We work at playing hard. Standards. The hardest worker in our practice every day, to the best of my ability, I want to be me. I try to be a hard worker. Now, it's hard for people to evaluate themselves because it always comes out wrong. But I would hope that our staff and I would hope that our players would say that Coach Sampson tries to set a high standard for us in practice every day. You have to have high standards. You know, when you're a young coach, you're growing up, you get married, you have children, your children get sick, your wife gets sick, you get sick. That's life. Life gets in the way sometimes. That's great, that's fine. We all have that. Doesn't make you unique, just makes you a human being. But from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, Those 12 kids or those 14 kids or 10 kids, how many kids you have on your team, they don't know nor do they care what your problem is. You have a responsibility to them. Don't share your problems with your team. Just coach them. Lead them. Make sure they understand that they are your primary goal to figure out how we can help you get better. Your standards. You have to have standards. All right, number 2 is accountability. I think most passive-aggressive people are scared to death to hurt other people's feelings. You want to coach them, but when there becomes a problem and it comes time to hold people accountable, you just don't have that, you don't have enough asshole in you to say the right thing or to do it. That's going to be difficult for you to be the best coach you can be. You don't have to use swear words. You don't have to be demeaning. You can be who you are. But you have to hold people accountable. You have to. You cannot have a team go from the first day of practice to end of practice without you being tested. Now I took one kid in the transfer portal for next season, and I have 2 freshmen. Now, most of them don't know whether they're on foot or horseback when they come into our program. So our best teachers are usually our returning players. You know, juniors that become seniors, sophomores become juniors. You know, we've worked as hard as we can to establish a culture at our place based on our standards, based on accountability. I don't know how you can have team rules or things that you believed in as a coach. It's like loose balls. How do you expect your kids to get on the floor after loose balls in games if you don't hold them accountable for doing that in practice, for instance? I don't want them to get hurt in practice. Sometimes they get hurt, sometimes they don't. I don't know that you can control that. You know, I've had years where we coach the same way every year, at least we try to. Some years we never have an injury. Then some years we have years like we did this year, where you have injuries. That's life. It happens. Stuff happens like that. You know, you don't go around making excuses. I think one of the worst things that a coach can do is go in the locker room and talk about how bad the referees are. What in God's name kind of message are you sending? Do you remember the 6 times little Jimmy got blown by in the first half? Do you remember the 8 free throws that little Johnny missed? And you're going to go in there after the game and blame the referees? Really? Really? Nuh-uh. You know, you can always do better as a team. Do better as a team. Hold your team accountable. And really, really coach your best player hard. Coach your best player. You know, there's probably not, you know, I don't like it when people get up here and say, I do this every day. There ain't nothing I do every day except inhale and exhale. That's about it. I don't know what else I would say I do every day. I love my wife, but I don't tell her I love her every day. We've been married long enough now that she probably knows it, but she likes to have some affirmation on it, so I try to do that as much as I can. But I don't do it every day. I don't work on defense every day. But I will say this, I hold our kids accountable for their effort every day. There's not a day goes by that here's my standard for how hard we should play. Here's my standard. If they dip below that standard, I'm going to hold them accountable. I have zero interest in what they think about that. There is no discussion. Those are non-negotiables. What are your non-negotiables? You should write those down. What are your non-negotiables? You have to have non-negotiables if you're going to coach. You have to. Is being on time, is that a non-negotiable? Sure it is. Better be. What are they? 5 minutes late, it's cool, at least you're here? Does that mean, what's your standard? Coaches have to have standards, man. They have to have standards. You also have to have non-negotiables. I know how talented our kids are. Some of them not quite as good as they think they are. Most of them think they're headed to the NBA. Most of them will not. I could care less about that. In the last 4 years, I think we've had a kid go number 8 in the draft, lottery pick. We've had 2 go number 25, and then we had 1 go 42. So we've had lottery, first round, second round. Every one of those kids had to learn to practice the right way. They had to learn to practice the right way. They had to learn to be on time. They had to learn to be the hardest worker, because if you're going to be the best player, that's extra responsibility. You can't be the best player without paying the tax. There's a tax on being the best player. You know, you got to stop at that poll booth. That's the thing I noticed about this state. There's a ton of toll booths in this state. But you got to stop at that toll and pay extra. If you're the best player, I can pay 50 cents or 75 cents, but the best player's got to pay $5. Why? Because he's the best player. You know, look at the way tax structure is set up in this country. Who pays the most tax? People with the most money, right? Well, if you're the most in anything, there's more expected from you. I talked to my best player about that. You don't get to come in here and practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then on Fridays and Saturdays, I'm going to take it easy. Those are non-negotiables. At what level are you holding them accountable? Okay. So standards, accountability, and the third one is expectations. Only after you've set standards and play to those standards every day. We're going to practice hard every day. When you watch Houston play whoever it is, West Virginia, Kansas State, doesn't matter in the Big 12. The way you see us play that night, that is how we've practiced leading up to that. We don't have a practice standard and then a game standard. We practice like we play. I'm old school about that stuff. There is no negotiations. Those are non-negotiables. How do you get your team to play so hard? I make them. I make them play hard. I make them play hard. How do you do that? I don't allow parents or family to come to my practices, ever. I don't talk to parents about basketball, ever. Ever's a long time. That's a long time. I don't talk to parents about basketball. I tell them that when I recruit their son. If you want somebody else to coach him, then you need to get him on the staff so you can let him coach him. I'm going to coach your son. We're not going to talk about it. I'll talk about academics. I'll talk about social issues. I'll talk about academic adjustments. I'll talk about mental health. Those things are really important, and those things all should include the family. But when it comes to basketball, no. No, I'm going to coach your son. Now, if you want to have a community coaching, that we all the cousins and Uncle Willie over here and Aunt Pam, all that, then send them somewhere where Aunt Pam and Cousin Willie and Uncle Ed and all them boys and get together and talk about how bad this coach is. But y'all going to have to talk about me behind my back, because you're not going to be involved. And the kid needs to know that too. You know, most important people in that kid's life as far as it comes to basketball is you and your staff. They have to believe in you, but you have to believe in them. You have to believe in them. If someone was to ask me, what's the most impressive thing about this little 7-year streak we have, 8-year, whatever it is at Houston, is that in our top 10 players over the last 7 years, I think, we've had 3 kids transfer in 10 years. Think about that. In this era, where they transfer, some schools, some teams have them 3 or 4 every single year. In 10 years, we've had 3. And one of them transferred off this team. because of evaluation. We just don't recruit, we evaluate. We evaluate kids we think can come play for us. And then we make a commitment to them. But they understand what our standards are, they understand they're going to be held accountable, and they understand we're going to create expectations. All those things are important. So I get asked a lot about our defense. I know I got a running clock over here, but I wanted to touch on that first because we all have to have a North Star. Does everybody understand the importance of the North Star in the history of our country? Does everybody understand that? Understand what the North Star represented? We have to have something that guides us. It'll teach us the path of where we want to go. Those three things are my North Star. Standards, accountability, expectations. Those are non-negotiables. You have to have non-negotiables. Being on time is a non-negotiable. Not playing with great energy and effort at practice. We had 112 practices this year. We played 37 games, and we had we had a scrimmage and an exhibition game or a preseason game. So what is that, let's say 120, 150. So we had about 155 total appearances this year where effort was required. Up until the last game that we played, which we lost, I don't ever remember being disappointed in our kids' effort. I remember being disappointed that we lost, but never disappointed with our effort. And I give credit for that, not to myself, but to our leaders. Jamal Shedd was our best player. He was our point guard, but he was also the best leader I've ever coached. His mother and father were 20-year military veterans that had accountability in their house. It's one of the reasons why we zeroed in on him. Year before, Marcus Sasser was a 25th pick in the NBA draft. His senior year in Rivals, he was rated number 366. 366. Could care less what other people think. If I could go back and give myself advice, I'll be 69 years old when next season starts. So I'm almost 70. That's pretty old, isn't it? Especially in this profession. But if I could go back and give a 30-something Kelvin or a 40-something Kelvin advice, I would say, hurry up and get to the point. And I would tell you this and desperately wish you would buy into it. Hurry up and get to the point in your careers and your lives that you're so secure in your profession that you don't care what other people think or say. It doesn't drive how you react to things. Don't listen to that. You know, my dad gave me two great pieces of advice in 1981. 1981. I specifically remember the year he gave me this. He said, number one, don't ever lose sight of the fact that parents had much rather their son or daughter make the all-conference team than your team win the conference championship. He said that'll be important as you go through this. Don't ever lose sight of that. Number two, if you start listening to those people sitting up there behind you, pretty soon you're going to be sitting with them. Those two things are really important. I was told that when I was 25 years old. 25 years old. I was told that, and I'm 68 right now, so it's been with me my entire life. And it took me a long time to really process, especially the second one. Because when you're young, you have a tendency to be insecure. You know, we come across as secure, but underneath, coaches can be really insecure because we're driven by results. We work in a results-based business, right? We have to win, okay? If you start losing, it's easy for coaches to lose your confidence. And that's why it's more important that you hear this than know how I teach my defense. You can figure out a defense. But you've got to come up with a North Star. You got to come up with your North Star, something that you believe in, that you're willing to take a bullet for. Because if you're willing to take a bullet for something that you believe in so strongly, you're certainly not going to let somebody else's opinion back you up. And that's important, especially as you grow in this profession. Believe in something. Don't waver. Believe in it so strongly that I don't care what old boy up there in the corner saying, or this guy's saying that. They're saying that in every gym in America. They're saying that to good coaches, great coaches, bad coaches, average coaches. They're all saying something about our profession, right? Be strong. Don't listen to them. Know where your North Star is. Set your standards. Hold your kids accountable. Create expectations among your team and coaches. And coach your team.